Hello, everyone, and welcome back to one of these interview episodes of the SWW show. I'm Mike, and today with me a special guest to talk about, honestly, a very stylized looking game. To get us started, do you mind introducing yourself and the game we're here to talk about?
Hey, of course, an absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. So I'm Peebs, 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 and we're here today to talk about Ovis Loop.
So, I'm actually so for people who have not heard of it, right? What is your elevator pitch or kind of intro of like OVIS Loop?
Sure, sure. So, to condense it down, okay. So, Ovis Loop is it's a combo action roguelite, and it's set in a world where we have sacrificial sheep who are fighting back against a monstrous army of wolves. Um, So you'll be able to customize and modify a skill deck with the hope to build really powerful combos. And if you can then push those to the limit, get them up as high as they can go, you hopefully wipe out, whole packs of wolves or even maybe bosses in a single strike. Obviously, if you're going to wipe out a boss, you've got to get it absolutely spot on. But then as you grow just stronger and defeat each wave, you'll uncover some kind of dark secrets within the post-apocalyptic world that you're trapped in, and like any good roguelike, obviously you'll unlock things as you go between deaths with meta progression, and I think that just about covers it.
Well, there is a lot to cover here, but I guess kind of conceptually then, where did
Mhm.
this idea kind of come from as the team, right? Because obviously, like what you just said there, bits and
Yeah.
pieces of different stories you kind of see, but like honestly, it's a very unique kind of combination of stuff, kind of, in the story you're kind of telling here.
Um, oh yeah, thank you. I mean, very strangely, and obviously, it's evolved quite considerably since then. But the idea, kind of from the game design point of view, with the team here, actually started with the old folk tale of the boy who cried wolf. Um, and then we kind of thought, well, what if the boy wasn't lying? What if there really were wolves out there? And that everything was kind of almost like the wolves were like gaslighting the boy and trying to get the village to turn against him. And that was kind of the very, very early concept of it, and that kind of twist on the classic tale then led us kind of to start going over Ovis Loop. And there are a few games that kind of that acted a bit as inspiration, and things like Slay the Spire and things like that. And it was just kind of, we wanted to put a real spin on that story, and of course, what can be kind of more turned on its head than a sheep with a sci-fi greatsword fighting back against wolves.
That's fair. So one of the things obviously is we kind of talked about. This is a kind of a deck building game. It's a rogue like stuff that's kind of in right now.
Yeah,
I'm kind of
yeah.
curious, kind of from a development point of view, when did this kind of start versus like, because obviously I'd argue that like they're still big now, but like the hype cycle, these were like 21, 22, maybe Tales 23, kind of where kind of was the development kind of comparatively to like obviously these other bigs in the genre that you guys are gonna naturally compare yourselves to. Like,
So I mean, development's been ongoing for a couple of years now, so it probably is kind of the conception of it. I'd say probably was in the early stages of that cycle, just when kind of when things had started picking up, and we had this kind of they had that this idea of the twist on the classic folk tale, and kind of looking around the various things. I mean, would it fit in an RPG? Maybe. Would it fit in various kinds of games? But I think the roguelite is a roguelike or roguelite is a perfect medium for it, really, a kind of a perfect genre to fit into, and that allows you then to uncover little bits of that story as you get on further, which is something that was quite important to the team.
I was gonna say that makes sense, especially like you guys are obviously gonna kind of release and like early access coming out, and like there's stuff there where it's interesting because like roguelites in a lot of ways almost feel like this perfect early access system because you're like, I could tweak
Yeah.
this or do it already. It's like this thing's like it's naturally built for these small cycles. I think way easier than like a game with like a harder like traditional campaign because like then you'd be like, great, how do I introduce this to a player without ruining? But I want to test it.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I mean, we've run a few. We've had a demo out, and we've had a few play tests as well, and that feedback from the community has, I've got to say, I mean, it's appreciated so much by the team. It's not just it's not just helping to shape the game, although that is a huge part of it, but it's also the amount of players who've come along on that journey, who have played it for sure, and who have obviously shared it and kind of said, oh, look, this is really cool. But those who have given feedback as well, it's all come from it has come from a place of love, and that's been just hugely supportive for the team here, and kind of I mean, with game development, there are highs and lows. It's a genuine roller coaster, but that support from the team throughout all of the playtests and things has been just the support from the players throughout the playtests and demos has just been absolutely incredible. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Like if it was a full campaign, I've never kind of absolutely loved those when it comes to early access, but it is just the perfect medium for having this super engaged community. And if you are listening, community, we are just incredibly thankful for you. So yeah, it is, as you said, it's absolutely perfect.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, and obviously we'll kind of dig into tail into this kind of your full release plans. But as you said, then you'll go into early access. But obviously you've been testing kind of internal and people with the demo, and probably you have a playtest group. Is there anything that I'm curious, kind of, especially as you got to these stable builds that you're heading towards early access? Is there anything from these demos that like fundamentally changed the game that you were like, oh, we never thought of this? Or is there any kind of like lesson that you've kind of learned and pointed to as like this helped us a ton?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's been loads of. I mean, obviously, it's a really small development team at Live Fuel. It started off with just two guys, and it's grown to a team of three. So kind of you only know what you know. So there has been honestly just so much of the feedback that has been instrumental in the team thinking kind of, oh, you know what, I thought that we were going along this line, but actually it seems that players want something else. I think one example of it is something that we actually we mentioned it for one of the recent playtests, because we had loads and loads of story. I want to really preface this by proactively saying we haven't thrown any story away, so don't worry. But we had loads of it up at the beginning of the game, and some of the feedback we had that was just, it was getting a bit overwhelming. And because it was set a little bit more, it was a little bit more, not completely, but it was more story driven at the start. It led to players having a lot of the same experience. Which obviously with a roguelite is not brilliant, and more importantly is not kind of what we had as the vision for it, because we wanted it to be this really varied game that players can with a roguelite it's slightly random, so maybe not all the time you can't exactly choose what you want, but players can build it according to what they're feeling. So I think that was one of the biggest bits of feedback that came from one of the earlier playtests. And so we stripped the story right back, so it not exactly drip feeding, but it's a lot slower, and this has meant that players can instead really push towards the things that they want to do, and also it's less overwhelming for them, which is the feedback that we got. That is just one example, but there is so much that the community has given us as feedback throughout the demos, throughout the playtests. Whether it's on the Steam community or whether it's over on X or Twitter, and a huge amount as well within the Live Fuel Discord, which has been just brilliant, and that's obviously where players can also speak with the devs firsthand as well. There are some time difference considerations, but most of the time people can get in touch and like give that feedback in real time. So there's been so much. That's one example.
No, that's a beautiful example. I was gonna say, I'm actually curious, as you're talking, you're the community manager and you have to deal with obviously a lot of this and so post and stuff too. How do you kind of balance kind of your time between all these places? I was just thinking we were talking like NX and this and Discord, and I'm like, God, like I ran like small stuff, and I'm like, I already have trouble jumping between this. How do you functionally like pay attention to the noise and not just be noise thrown at you?
So I mean that's a really interesting question. obviously I can't answer for the full team there, but I can obviously answer for me as a community manager and a social manager. And the answer for that for me is spreadsheet. I have
When in doubt.
yeah, when in doubt, spreadsheet, right? I have loved a spreadsheet for many years. But basically, I've created the kind of a central hub which has got all of the knowledge of the game, and I mean my own kind of ethos on it in a way is that if for any reason I'm not here tomorrow, obviously I very much hope that I am, but anything can happen. So if for any reason I'm not, if I'm sick or anything like that, so that people can pick it up and instantly know where things are, what's coming up, what we should be talking about, and things like that. So I've got this spreadsheet that's a centralized, I like to call it a database, just so that it sounds really highbrow. But I've got that, and it literally I spend a lot of time at the beginning, and then that gets a bit less as you go on. But so that plans out all the posts that we're doing, the community initiatives, and obviously it's not just me either. There is a team behind the game that is discussing things, throwing ideas backwards and forwards, and should we do this? Could we do this? Or quite often I've just seen this funny meme. Can we get it out?
Those are...
So yeah, spreadsheets, lots of spreadsheets, and you've got to be organized, which is something that I personally am very much not. So I have to kind of force myself into that, being organized and getting it all in the spreadsheet. So the short answer is there's a spreadsheet for that.
When in doubt, there is a spreadsheet. I appreciate that. No, that it's funny because that is always the answer. I feel like to a lot of businessy questions, but like no one wants that to be the answer.
I wish I had something. I wish there was a magic genie or something, but unfortunately, it is a spreadsheet. I like to think it's a really cool spreadsheet. There's a lot of formulas, there's a lot of color coding in there, but unfortunately, yeah, that is it.
That's amazing. I was gonna say, let's kind of jump back into a bit, kind of the combat and kind of flow of the game. We kind of talked around it a bit. So obviously the whole shtick here, as you kind of said, is you're kind of gonna be going around and defending these wolves is kind of, I understood it. Can we? I want to.
Yeah. So
go on.
No, go ahead.
I kind of want to talk about kind of the flow of combat a bit, kind of, and I know kind of that there's these interesting kind of like combat-y systems, and you dig into combo building. Kind of, I wanted to kind of more understand kind of if I'm a player and kind of going through this, kind of what does that look like, function, play as, the usual.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the tough bit of this. Sorry, bear with me a second. Sorry. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, the interesting thing about that really is that it can look different depending on your playstyle. So we've got different weapons, we've got different skills, we've got different modules, and we've got all sorts of different stuff so that players can kind of approach it differently. And obviously I don't want to give away any spoilers, but kind of as a new player to the game, you'll go through kind of a very small initial tutorial, kind of a playthrough tutorial. And then you'll kind of head into the apocalyptic environment. So that comes up with a randomized map of different places you can go to, and that might lead you to a new skill, or it might lead you to a new weapon modification, or a new module, or an unknown thing. And so you'll enter that, and then kind of you'll start off with just one skill, which is the first one that comes with whichever weapon it is that you select. So we've got the sci-fi greatsword, which is a fairly standard combat sword, and it doesn't particularly excel in any areas, but it's a good solid choice. But you could, as you then move forward, unlock things like the charge hammer, which is a much slower but much harder hitting weapon, and that does take a little bit of skill to get used to. But we have quite a few different weapons, but the basic loop of it is that you will fight, you will pick up some skills, some modules, some weapon upgrades, and you'll keep going as long as you can. And then when you do fall for the first time, and you will, obviously it's a
and you will,
Yeah, you definitely will. I mean, if you're anything like me, I'm rubbish at video games. So if you're anything like me, you'll fall pretty quickly. But it's all about that learning. So what you've got then within the meta progression is that you'll unlock potential new skills which you can find along the way. So then obviously you'll go right back to the beginning and you'll start again and go through and pick different skills. Now, importantly with this one, we've got a bit, because it's sounding fairly standard so far, but one of the things that makes OVIS Loop a bit different is that we have a bit of a choice between a combo system or kind of more passive effects. So when you grab a skill, you've got a couple of options. If you do find it again in the skill pool, you can evolve it a little bit, and there's two ways that you can do that. So you could grab an active, what we call a combo skill. So after you've used the skill once, it will then modify, and you'll have a different skill, which then combos over the top of that. Or you could use a passive skill, something to increase burn rates, or to sorry,
No,
I've
you're
lost
totally
track of my words. Increase burn rates,
You're saying
or to make attacks hit harder, and all sorts of little bits like that. So you've got two choices there really on which road you go down, and there are I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but there are things which kind of will allow you to focus on maybe just having one skill or not using skills at all. And just using it through kind of pure action dodging and kind of upgrading your regular hits and things like that. So it can really look very different depending on what weapons you choose, what modules you've chosen. It can really look very different depending on what skills you've chosen, what modules you grab along the way, and what weapon you bring with you as well, as to kind of what it actually looks like.
So to give maybe a little more context to there, kind of as we said, so I like when you're saying weapons, kind of what is maybe like the variety of weapons the players to choose from, or kind of is there like a favorite of yours that kind of stands out that you guys have shown off or talked about kind of to use?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of an outlier. So there's a few different weapons that people will have seen within the demos and the playtest so far. So the first one is the sci-fi greatsword, as we said, and that kind of I don't want to use the word bog standard because it is still a solid weapon, but it is your standard. It's your starter weapon, and after that, once you unlock Manium. So as you go through, as you're fighting alpha enemies, the bigger enemies and the bosses, you'll unlock a small crystal called Manium, and as you earn that, that will help you then to unlock new things, kind of as you go between runs. So there are a few different weapons in at the moment. We've got the sci-fi greatsword. We've also got a bit of an evolution of that, which is a fire-based weapon. We've got the charge hammer, which allows you to do well, as it sounds, charged up hits. So kind of you brace it, and it's much slower, but as I said earlier, it's much heavier hitting. So that one does take a bit of skill, and overall the charge hammer is definitely kind of the team's favorite weapon on the whole.
It sounds like a fun chunking
It
thing.
is it really is. The thing is, there are various weapons that we've also got a lightning blade weapon, which is a bit faster, and that comes with lightning damage as well. So we've got all of these different status effects going on as well. We've got the fire, we've got the lightning, there's all sorts of different stuff that you can lean into, but the charge hammer is a really interesting one, I think, anyway, because it can feel clunky, and it can feel really risky because it's a really heavy hammer. It takes time and it takes effort in order to use it. And I think as well, I mean, obviously I can't take any credit for it, but the team have done an incredible job in making that come across in the animations as well. But because it takes so long, it does leave you a little bit more vulnerable to other attacks. So there are some clear downsides. You're exposed while you're charging up. So it's not great for health management. But if you can handle it properly when you get used to it, it becomes, if you can kind of train yourself in it, it becomes a weapon where you can finish off the enemy before they can get to you. So it's really it's a raw power, and it is super high risk, but it's also high reward gameplay. And that is overall what the team enjoy the most. But there are, there are much faster options, which, they don't hit as hard. But if you like that faster gameplay, you can get involved in that. And then obviously things like having lightning damage on top of that. And if you find different skill buffs, or different modules and things like that as you go on your travels, everything can be upgraded, and it can synergize with each other as well.
So that sounds like one of the things to me that I always think of is this idea of like cognitive load, right? So like naturally the amount of things that people can hold in their mind at a time. And roguelites at least kind of naturally have this flow in that you kind of slowly introduce things to players. So you kind of teach them, they come to grain, and next thing appears. So it kind of naturally solves part of that problem. Have you guys been seeing any of that in your testing? Almost like there's so many options for players that it gets hard for them, kind of, or has it been more of a like they slowly use these systems and now the new system's here, so like it's kind of more naturally kind of controlled that problem?
Well, I mean, throughout the playtest and the demos, as I said, the feedback has been fantastic, and I cannot stress how thankful we are for it. But throughout that, one of the things that was highlighted was that kind of cognitive load. I'm not really sure where I'm going with this. So there are various things that we have which are in place now, but we know as well that it's not the end of the road. And certainly as we continue down the road of early access, it's something that is going to be kind of at the forefront of us going, is this okay? How do you guys feel about this? Are we introducing things? Are we introducing it slowly enough so that you can take it on? And are we introducing it clearly enough as well, which is a big consideration. So we did find at first that players, a lot of players were getting it, and I'd say maybe the majority were understanding and following along with it. But there were, I'd say smaller, but definitely not insignificant, because every experience has been hugely valuable. So there were people who were giving the feedback that they didn't understand it. So it has been something that we focused on getting up there. We've since put kind of a bit more of an in-depth tutorial in, not hugely. People are still learning as you go, and we want it to be that kind of seamless experience. And we also have things like Mook, M-O-O-K, who's the little robot within the place where you'll pick up your skills. And they'll just, they'll go backwards and forwards at the top of the screen as you pick up things. Sorry, I'll go back and go over that again because that was unclear.
No,
it sounded like they were there in the main game. So Mook is just a little robot, and when you're in the between level area, when you're picking up new skills, or when you're picking up new combo parts, or when you're picking up new modules and things, Mook will be up there at the top, so you can just jump up and you can test these skills out on a lovely, and I have to say, indestructible. He's absolutely used to it. He's very much used to it. You're not being mean. So you can go up there and you can test it, and you can see what the effect is yourself. As I say, it's definitely not the end of the road, because we are looking at things which will, make it a bit clearer on what's happening, or what is going to happen if you choose certain skills. So it's not the end of the road, but we have already made some good steps towards it, I think, and the feedback from the community has been pretty positive in how we've approached that.
No, that sounds absolutely great. So again, the game we've been talking about here today is OVIS Loop. The game comes out on early access on August 14th of this year. Is that correct?
That is right. Yeah, we are aiming to launch on the 14th of August, and that'll be through Steam Early Access.
Perfect. Where else should we be sending people to go check out this project, updates, the works, the whole shebang?
Oh, well, there's a few areas. The Steam community, I really love. I think is a great little area. So obviously, wish listing on Steam will help you to keep up with news that we put out in the announcements on there. And if you then subscribe into the community as well, as people asking questions, getting answers, and we're going to be putting up little challenges in there as well. You know, see who's got the heaviest hit, who can get the best combos and things like that. So Steam is a great place, but you can also find loads of updates if you're over on X or Twitter, as some people are still calling it, and Discord as well, and YouTube. And if you could, folks, we have just started up our own little corner of TikTok. So if you are over on TikTok, we're on there as lifefuel.games. And you know, we're on X as LifeFuel as well, and we have links all over the place for our LifeFuel Discord community as well. So those are the main places you can go to. And even if you just want to find out a little bit more about the game, have a conversation with the devs, see what makes them tick personally as well, then everybody is very welcome to come join us, and you will be very much accepted into our flock.
Perfect. Well, I want to say again, thank you for taking time to talk to me today about your game. I'm excited to see what ends up, and honestly, I don't know as how many games recently I get to kill wolves. So I think there was some exciting, unique stuff. But no, honestly, the game looks great. I am excited to see more, and best of luck as you guys are running towards this early access launch.
Oh, huge thank you. Yeah, a huge thank you for having us here as well. It's been absolutely wonderful speaking to you, and yeah, we're really looking forward to seeing what more people think at launch. So hopefully we can be back with you at some point a little closer towards 1.0 launch, and we'll see how things have gone.
That sounds absolutely great. Again, thank you for joining me today, and best of luck.
Thank you.